Hello kids, good day. This is Teacher Isa and we are on our 5th week of our lesson in Science 4. And for this week, still we are going to discuss more about materials and their uses. But for this lesson, we are going to focus on harmful effects of physical and chemical change. Alright, so for this week, we're going to describe changes in properties of materials when exposed to certain changes in temperature, such as changes when wood or coal are burned. Okay, so let's start our day 1. We have some quick review for this lesson. Okay, so determine whether the following statements is an example of physical or chemical change. Number 1, you tear a piece of paper into small pieces. So it's physical change, alright? Because you just tear the pieces of paper, but still you call it paper. Okay, so number 2, water boils on the stove and turns into steam. So what do you call that? Is that a physical or chemical change? So that is physical change. Number 3, iron nails left outside begin to rust. So it's chemical change. Number 4, mixing vinegar and baking soda together causes fizzing and bubbling. So this is chemical change. Number 5, ice cubes melt in a glass of water. That is physical change. Number 6, a candle burns and produces heat and light. So that is chemical change. 7, cutting vegetables into small pieces for a salad. That is physical change. 8, mixing salt into a glass of water until it dissolves completely. It's physical change. 9, wood is burned in a campfire and turns into ashes. That is chemical change. And milk curdles after adding lemon juice. So that is chemical change. Alright. Last week, you learned that matters undergo various changes when exposed to changes in temperature, which can be classified as either physical change or chemical change. In the next phase of the lesson, you will be able to know and understand how some changes in matters can have harmful effects on us humans and our environment. You will also be learning how we can minimize the harmful effects of these changes and how to properly handle reactive materials. Okay, so before we head on to our lesson, let's first unscramble these words. So, it is for number 1, the meaning is it is the natural home or environment of a plant, animal, or other organism. It provides the organisms that live there with food, water, shelter, and space to survive. So we call that habitat. Okay, so when we say habitat, it is the place that we live. Okay, be it for animal or be it for plant. So we call that habitat. Next, it is the introduction of harmful materials into the environment. Okay, so the answer is pollution. Okay, next, it is commonly defined as the deterioration of a material, usually a metal, or its properties because of a reaction with its environment. Okay, so the answer is corrosion. Next, it is a geographic area where plants, animals, and other organisms, as well as weather and landscape, work together to form a bubble of life. We call that ecosystem. Okay, And next, it is the chemical reaction that occurs between substances when materials burn. So that is combustion. Okay, so we have here given the table are examples of changes in matter. Identify whether they are physical or chemical. Put a check in the column if it refers to a physical or a chemical change and whether it is wanted or unwanted. Justify your answers and share them with your classmates. Okay, so we have here some familiar examples. You're just going to check if it is a physical or chemical change. Okay, so now let's have our lesson for this week. So we're going to discuss more about harmful effects of physical and chemical change. So to start off, we have first the harmful effects of physical change. Number one, too much evaporation. Evaporation is when water turns into vapor and goes up into the air, like when a puddle dries up in the sun. Too much evaporation means a lot of water is disappearing from where it should be, like from lakes, rivers, or even the soil. Okay, so that's why when we come across some rivers, if there is too much evaporation, we can tell, like for example, I have this one particular river because it is where I go to during my vacation when I was a child. So going back year after year, so I noticed that after several years, it's like parang lumiliit yung ilog, no? And parang habang tumatagal, mas umuunti, parang umuusog ba siya, no? It's like drying up, no? Maybe it is because of too much evaporation. So, tumataas lang kapag may ulan or dumadami lang yung water niya if continuous yung rain, no? Pero, for example, during El Nino, parang na-feel mo na parang mababaw siya, no? After a few steps, biglang lalim siya. So, parang nag-evaporate yung water, no? So, that is what we meant by too much evaporation. So, like lakes, rivers, or even the soil. So, it's very harmful naman kapag soil because it's very hard for plants to grow because nagda-dry yung soil, hindi siya nagkakaroon ng enough moisture for the plants to grow. So, there's harmful effects of too much evaporation. So, drying up of water sources. If too much water evaporates from lakes, rivers, and reservoirs, they can shrink or even disappear, making it hard for animals and people to get water to drink or for plants to grow. So that is what I'm talking a while ago. Next is increase in droughts. When there's not enough water in the soil or in the air because of too much evaporation, it can lead to droughts, which means there's not enough water for crops to grow, causing food shortages and harming farms and farmers. So, parang tumataas yung incidence ng tagtuyot. Diba? So, kailangan pa ng irrigation para lang kailangan pa ng extra no water from the irrigation para lang to make sure na hindi nag-dried up yung soil. Kasi kapag masyadong tuyo, yun nga, as what the slide tells us, mahihirapan yung mga pananim para tumubo. And ano yung effect nito and yung cause nito? Because of increase in droughts, it would cause food shortages and harming farms and farmers. Siyempre, kapag kaunti yung tumutubong plants or sabihin na natin palay, no? Kapag hindi maganda yung tubo ng palay, naapektuhan yung mga ating magsasaka, no? Kumbaga, nababawasan yung kanilang harvest and at the same time, kaunti yung kanilang maibebenta. And that would cause food shortages, no? Implying na we need to import rice, no, from our neighbor countries. Number 2, melting of glaciers. Glaciers are huge masses of ice that are very important because they store a lot of fresh water. When they melt, they turn into water which flows into rivers and oceans. So, what is its harmful effects? Number 1, rising sea levels. When glaciers melt too fast, it adds a lot of water to the oceans, causing them to rise. This can flood coastal areas where many people live and can damage homes and buildings. And isa sa mga hindi magandang effect, no, kapag natunaw itong mga napakalalaking tipak ng yelo na ito, kapag tumaas ang sea level, no, may mga lowlands tayo na maaring lumubog. No, yun yung pinaka-worst na effect na pwedeng mangyari kapag nag-melt yung ating mga glaciers, no, yung mga malalaking tipak ng yelo natin sa North Pole. Okay, at yung mga there are some cities and there are some places that can be submerged underwater kapag patuloy yung pag-melt ng mga glaciers na ito. And another harmful effect would be loss of habitat. Animals like polar bears and seals rely on glaciers for hunting and resting. When the ice melts, they lose their homes and places to find food, making it hard for them to survive. So, if you can see some pictures in the net, wherein some polar bears, no, they would just sit in a piece na lang of ice, no, melted up. Kasi patuloy na natutunaw yung mga glaciers natin, which is their habitat. And kapag natunaw yun, mawawalan sila ng habitat, no? At kapag nawala yung mga polar bears, so once na nawawala yung isang species, nagkakaroon ng somewhat imbalance in the ecosystem. So, nagkakaroon ng problema from there. Okay. But, of course, the thing is, nawawalan sila ng habitat or place to live. Okay. So, we have here some harmful effects of chemical change. Number 1 is air pollution. Okay, so chemical changes can release harmful gases into the air, like when cars burn fuel or factories produce smoke, especially yung mga big factories natin, no, that emits dangerous and hazardous smoke in the air. Now, what is this harmful effects? Number 1 is respiratory problems. Breathing in polluted air can cause coughing, asthma, and other breathing problems, making it hard for people, especially kids and older adults, to stay healthy. Of course, kapag nakakalanghap tayo ng polluted air, no, hindi siya, parang sometimes we feel like it's very hard to breathe. Kasi napakaraming pollutants na na-inhale natin. And it would cause harmful effects, especially for those who have respiratory problems na before pa. No? Kumbaga, meron silang, like, for those who are people with asthma, no, and allergy. So, it will be very hard for them to breathe. They will have a difficult time dealing with this kind of air. Of course, we have also the environmental damage. Polluted air can harm plants and animals, disrupt ecosystems, and can even lead to global warming, which can cause extreme weather events like hurricanes and droughts. So, at this point in time, we are really experiencing climate change because of course, before we only have the dry season and the wet season in the Philippines. And we can tell whether yung season niya is magsa-start na ng tag-init or the summer and kapag magsa-start na ng tag-ulan. But nowadays, weather is very unpredictable. Sometimes, no, during a rainy season, we experience extreme heat. And during summer, we can still have typhoon, very strong typhoon. And the weather nowadays is extreme. No, kapag mainit, sobrang init talaga. Okay, imagine during summer days or during those months as we experience summer, diba, we already suspending classes because of too much heat, ranging from about 40 degrees to 43 degrees. Ganun kainit. And yung mga typhoons natin before, we don't have signal number 5. But nowadays, Pag-asa is raising typhoon weather signal number 5 already. And we are experiencing super typhoons, which was years ago, we don't have super typhoons, no? Starting with Yolanda, grabe talaga yon. So, these are the effects, no, of yung pollution and climate change as we speak. Next is water contamination. Chemical changes can also happen in water, like when factories dump waste into rivers or when fertilizers from farms wash into lakes. So harmful effects, of course, health risk. Contaminated water can make people sick if they drink it or swim in it. It can cause stomach aches, diarrhea, and even more serious illness. Okay, so that's why, no, for example, the water in Manila Bay, no, still, kahit na they make it beautiful and they make it look like it's clean, but the test would say, the laboratory test would say na it is not still safe for our kababayans to swim there because mataas pa rin yung contamination level ng water sa Manila Bay. It's full of bacteria pa rin, and it is not safe for kids and adults to swim because there is a tendency for them to drink that water and it would cause stomach aches, diarrheas, and even some serious illnesses. Next is harm to aquatic life. Chemicals in water can harm fish, frogs, and other aquatic animals, disrupting their habitats and causing population declines. This can affect the balance of ecosystem and reduce biodiversity. Next is soil degradation. Chemical changes in the soil can occur when pesticides, herbicides, or other chemicals are used in farming or gardening. Some of its harmful effects is loss of fertility. Chemicals in the soil can kill helpful organisms like earthworms and bacteria, making it hard for plants to grow. This leads to poor crop yields and reduces the amount of food that can be grown. Alright, so yung too much fertilizers, no, and pesticides can cause damage sa soil, no? Kumbaga, binabawasan niya yung ganda ng lupa para taniman. And it would cause mababang production ng plants or for example, vegetables and fruits. And yun nga, it reduces yung amount ng fruits and vegetables that can be harvested. Okay, next would be contamination of food. If plants absorb chemicals from the soil, they can end up in the food we eat. Eating food contaminated with harmful chemicals can cause health problems over time. Okay, so next, harmful effects of chemical change is corrosion. Corrosion is a chemical change that happens when metals react with substances in the environment like oxygen or water. So harmful effects, damage to structure, Corrosion can weaken metal structures like bridges, buildings, and pipelines, leading to collapses, leaks, and other accidents. And of course, costly repairs. Fixing or replacing corroded metal objects can be expensive and time-consuming, especially if they are critical infrastructure or equipment. Okay, number 4, acid rain. Chemical reactions in the atmosphere can produce acids that fall back to Earth as rain, snow, or fog. Its harmful effects, damage to ecosystems. Acid rain can harm plants, trees, and aquatic life by leaching nutrients from the soil, damaging leaves and needles, and making bodies of water too acidic for fish and other organisms to survive. Next is deterioration of buildings and monuments. Acid rain can erode and corrode buildings, statues, and monuments made of stone or metal, leading to their deterioration and loss of cultural heritage kasi nagre-react yung acid doon sa mga metals and stones. Okay, number 5 is groundwater contamination. Chemicals from industrial spills, landfills, or agricultural runoff can seep into the ground and contaminate groundwater sources. So, of course, its harmful effects would be for our health. Contaminated groundwater can pose serious risks to humans and animals if consumed, leading to illness such as cancer, neurological disorders, and reproductive problems. And of course, long-term environmental damage. Once groundwater is contaminated, it can be difficult and costly to clean up, posing long-term risk to environment and public health. Okay, so for day 2, we have ways in minimizing harmful effects and changes in properties of materials. So these are the ways on how we can minimize the harmful effects of these changes in properties of materials. Number 1 is recycling. Recycling reduces the need for raw materials, lowering production cost for goods made from recycled materials. It also creates job opportunities in the recycling industry. Recycling conserves natural resources, reduces energy consumption, and minimizes greenhouse gas emissions associated with resource extraction and manufacturing processes. Okay, reducing consumption. So by consuming less, individuals can save money, reduce clutter in their homes, and lead simpler, less stressful lifestyle. So that's why instead of using plastics, we opted to have eco bags. Why eco bags? Because we can use it again and again. When we go to the market or grocery stores, we can just always bring our eco bag with us. So every time we are going to buy groceries, so instead of using plastics, we can use our eco bag. So it will be cost effective for us, no? Mas hindi na tayo gumagamit ng plastic. Plus, we can save kung nalalessen na yung ating mga tambak-tambak sa ating mga bahay. Reduced consumption decreases the demand for new materials, helping to conserve natural resources and minimize environmental degradation associated with resource extraction and production. Number 3, reusing items. Reusing items saves money by extending the lifespan of products and reducing the need for frequent replacements. It also fosters creativity and innovation in finding new uses for old items. Okay, so for some plastic bottles, others would recreate them into home decor or something useful. Okay, and ang daming ways on how to reuse items. No, we just need to be creative para magamit natin ulit yung mga bagay, and it would really save us money. Okay, reusing items conserves resources and reduces waste generation, lowering burden on landfills, and minimizing pollution from disposal. Okay. Number 4, choosing eco-friendly alternatives. Eco-friendly alternatives often contain fewer harmful chemicals, making them safer for human health. Reducing exposure to toxins may also promote a healthier lifestyle. Eco-friendly materials are typically biodegradable, compostable, or recyclable, reducing their environmental impact and promoting sustainable resource use. That's why naglipana na ngayon yung mga e-bikes, e-tricycles, and e-jeeps. Meron na ding e-car, which consumes energy na, no, instead of fuel. And this helps in minimizing air pollution, in saving also, kasi mahal na yung gasolina, right? So they would end up charging na lang, and there are some charging stations for this kind of electronic vehicles. Number 5 is proper disposal. Benefit to humans. Proper disposal practices help prevent pollution and contamination of air, water, and soil, safeguarding human health and well-being. Proper disposal minimizes the risk of hazardous substances into environment, preserving ecosystem health and biodiversity. But first, before proper disposal, we should also learn how to segregate our waste materials. So from biodegradable to non-bio, from recyclable, and from infectious and from hazardous waste, so that we can dispose it properly. Conservation and preservation. Conservation efforts protect natural habitats and ecosystem, providing recreational opportunities, clean air and water, and essential ecosystem services that support human livelihoods. Conservation and preservation initiatives safeguard biodiversity, mitigate climate change, and maintain ecological balance, ensuring natural systems' long-term health and resilience. Education awareness. Education and awareness campaigns empower individuals to make informed choices and to take action to reduce their environmental footprint, leading to healthier and more sustainable lifestyle. So, it is very important to be educated on how to minimize our waste. All right, and so it would help, especially for the factories. They will undergo seminars on how to properly dispose their waste, because the waste coming from these big factories can really cause the pollution. Okay, and of course the smoke they emit, it can really cause air, it can really damage the air. And then yung waste that they yung waste na tinatapon nila, yung dinidispose, so it should not be directed to the rivers because it can really cause water pollution, and it could be ingested by the fishes, and we are eating this fish, no, it can really be harmful for us if we ingest this kind of food, no. That's why education is very important, giving this big factory seminars and trainings, educate them on how they can lessen, and they will not be part of those factors that contribute to pollution. And this would be small step would benefit the environment and would benefit the people. Now, benefit the environment, increased awareness, fosters a culture of environmental stewardship, and promotes collective efforts to address environmental challenges, leading to more effective conservation and sustainability initiatives. Okay, for day 3, we are going to focus on proper ways of handling of reactive materials. Now, what is a reactive materials? These are substances that can undergo chemical reactions with other substances, often producing heat, light, gas, or even explosions. These reactions can occur when the reactive material comes into contact with air, water, or another chemical. So we have here some examples of reactive materials and how to properly handle this material. So please take note of this because these are some of the things that we can usually find at home, and so that we should know how to handle and how to use this kind of reactive materials. Number one is bleach. Bleach is a common household cleaner that contains sodium hypochlorite, which can react with acids like vinegar. So to produce chlorine gas, a toxic substance. So how do we properly handle this material? So number one, always use bleach in a well-ventilated area to prevent the buildup of chlorine gas. Diba? For example, yung kapag naglilinis tayo ng toilet, kahit Zonrox lang yung, kahit bleach lang yung gamit natin sa paglilinis. No? It is very important to open yung pinto or if may window yung CR, yung comfort room, it should be open. Why? Kasi kapag close yon, may tendency na ma-suffocate tayo doon sa amoy. No, minsan, di ba, parang nahihilo after. Kasi nga, nasa-suffocate doon sa nabibuild up na toxic substance. Okay, so, it should be used in a well-ventilated area para hindi makapag-produce yung build-up ng chlorine gas, hindi tayo maapektuhan. Next, never mix bleach with acids or ammonia-based cleaners to avoid the production of toxic gases. Next, wear gloves and protective eyewear to avoid skin and eye irritation when handling bleach. Minsan nakakaluto yan ng ating skin, no? Lalo na yung ating mga daliri. Next, follow manufacturer's instruction for dilution and usage carefully. Number 2, ammonia. Ammonia is often found in household cleaning products. It can react with bleach to produce toxic chloramine vapors. Okay, how do we handle it properly? Use ammonia-based cleaners in well-ventilated areas to prevent inhalation of fumes. Never mix ammonia with bleach as this can produce toxic chloramine vapors. Wear gloves and protective eyewear to prevent skin and eye irritation when handling ammonia. Store ammonia-based cleaners in a cool, dry place away from direct sunlight and sources of heat. Okay, next would be aluminum foil. Aluminum foil can react with acidic foods like tomatoes or citrus fruits, releasing hydrogen gas. Okay, how do we handle it properly? Avoid using aluminum foil with acidic foods to prevent the release of hydrogen gas. Store aluminum foil in a cool, dry place away from sources of moisture to prevent corrosion. And another thing that I observed, you should not heat food, no, in an aluminum foil, especially in a microwave oven. Nagre-react siya, nagkakaroon ng spark, no? So never reheat your food in an aluminum foil, and then you're going to reheat it in a microwave oven. Batteries, it is also a common household material that we can see inside our home. Okay, household batteries contain reactive materials like lithium, zinc, or alkaline electrolytes. If batteries are damaged or improperly disposed of, they can leak corrosive chemicals or even explode. Okay, how do we handle this properly? Handle batteries with care and avoid damaging them to prevent leaks or explosions. Store batteries in a cool, dry place away from direct sunlight and sources of heat. Dispose of batteries properly according to local regulations and never incinerate them. Drain cleaners. Drain cleaners often contain highly reactive chemicals like sodium hydroxide or sulfuric acid, which can cause burns if not handled properly. Use drain cleaners in well-ventilated area and avoid inhaling fumes. Wear gloves and protective eyewear when handling drain cleaners to prevent skin and eye irritation. Never mix drain cleaners with other chemicals as this can produce hazardous reactions. Next, we have oven cleaners. Oven cleaners may contain strong alkalis like sodium hydroxide, which can react with organic matter to dissolve grease and grime. Use oven cleaners according to the manufacturer's instructions and avoid prolonged skin contact. Wear gloves and protective eyewear when handling oven cleaners to prevent skin and eye irritation. Ensure proper ventilation when using oven cleaners to avoid inhaling fumes. Hydrogen peroxide. So hydrogen peroxide, commonly used as disinfectant, it can react with certain materials like copper or iron to produce oxygen gas. Handle hydrogen peroxide with care and avoid contact with metals to prevent the production of oxygen gas. Store hydrogen peroxide in a cool, dark place away from sources of heat and light. Do not mix hydrogen peroxide with other chemicals unless directed to do so by a qualified professional. Matches and lighters. Matches and lighters contain reactive materials like phosphorus or flammable gases which ignite when struck or activated. Store matches and lighters in a safe place out of children's reach and away from heat sources. Handle matches and lighters with care to prevent accidental ignition. Never leave matches or lighters unattended and ensure they are fully extinguished after use. Household cleaners. Many household cleaners contain reactive chemicals such as acids, bases, or oxidizing agents, which can be hazardous if mixed together or handled improperly. Read and follow the manufacturer's instructions for proper usage and storage of household cleaners. Avoid mixing different household cleaners together to prevent hazardous reactions. So, feeling mo, mas lilinis kapag kinombine mo yung bleach with other household cleaners. So, it's very dangerous. So, never do that unless alam mo and you are a professional who knows the reaction of these chemicals when mixed with other chemicals. Wear gloves and protective eyewear to avoid skin and eye irritation when handling household cleaners. And for day 4, we're going to have activities for this day. Okay, now outline in the graphic organizer what you have learned in the lesson. So we have here different effects and changes in the properties of materials and how to minimize these effects. So we have the harmful effects and ways on how to minimize these harmful effects. And we also have proper ways of handling reactive materials. Okay, so understand that some materials can react and change quickly. These materials might fizz, bubble, or even produce heat or smoke. When handling anything that could be reactive, wear safety gear like goggles and gloves to protect your eyes and skin. Keep your workspace neat and tidy. Make sure bottles and containers are labeled properly so you know what's inside. If you're not sure about something or if you see something strange happening, ask your teacher for help. It's better to ask questions than to guess and get hurt, especially if you are in your science laboratory. After you finish your experiment, clean up any spills or messes right away. Dispose of any leftover materials properly, following your teacher's instructions. And remember, safety is the most important thing when working with any materials. Always be responsible and cautious. Okay, so for your formative assessment, we have a 10-item test here. So kindly answer it in your science notebook or quiz notebook if you have. And then let's find out if you get the correct answers later on. Okay, let's find out if you get all the correct answers. Alright, so thank you so much for listening and sparing your almost 40 minutes with me. So this is the teacher Isa. Thank you so much and see you next week. Bye!